You're listening to Adesope Live, the Afrobeats Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Adesope Live, the official Afrobeats Podcast, where we break down the hottest topics in the culture. And of course, sometimes we bring superstar guests to sit down one-on-one and let me discuss with them. Thank you very much for your subscriptions, likes, sharing, comments. We appreciate it. Let's keep the numbers going up. That's how we include, or should I say, increase the power of our platforms so we can promote our own people without waiting for anybody else to promote them for us. Mm-hmm. Joining me in the studio today is one icon, a young man who has done great things, of Nigerian heritage, raised in the United Kingdom, but now dominating in LA. This brother has worked with everybody from Beyonce to Chris Brown to Ariana Grande to Justin Bieber. The list goes on. When we're talking hit records and multi-million selling records, this brother definitely knows what we're talking about. You would have heard his tagline on productions in the past, but you just didn't know who it was. You had H Money. He is the one and only Harmony Samuel.
Sunny break.
Listen, my brother.
What's up,
it's
bro?
a long time coming.
Yeah.
You've listen, man. Your story is one we need to tell our people. We need to share with our kids or young brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Not only to see how much success you can get as an African brother,
Yeah.
but also to see how far you can go.
Yeah.
Because when you see other people succeed with their dreams, it gives you inspiration to succeed with yours.
Yeah.
An introduction is that you're a super producer who's getting too much money out here in the streets. That's the simple introduction. But
Wow.
the first
There's never
question,
too much money.
But the first
Never too
question
much money.
to anybody that really doesn't know Harmony Samuels is, who is Harmony Samuels?
Man, Harmony Samuels is a child of God who has been put on this earth to be a bridge between culture, spirituality, music, and life. You know, I was raised by two beautiful Nigerians who were immigrants and found their way to the United Kingdom. And they met there, and they conceived me as the firstborn of four. I was born and raised in Southeast London.
Talk that talk. That's
You
what
know what I
we're
mean? Southeast London, born and raised in Southeast London. My father worked very hard. They were immigrants, man. They weren't like legal or anything. So they worked hard. They were hardworking people. And they raised us in the church. By the time I was 4 years old, I was playing the drums. And by the time I was 7, 8 years old, I was playing drums, keyboard, and bass. By the time I was 12, I was the music director at my church.
Damn.
Yeah, and, music was just part of my soul, Music was another language that I understood before I could speak English. And as I got older, my mother would tell me stories like, oh, that makes sense, because when you was in the womb, you would kick. The only time you would kick was when you heard music. And that's how they communicated to me when I was in a womb. So music was kind of like embedded in me. To this very day, I've never been like musically taught by anyone. I never had lessons or...
Wow.
Yeah, my parents couldn't afford it. Even when the teachers in school, would say, yo, hey, Mr. Samuels, can you please take your son to class? Or can we
develop this talent?
Develop this talent, because it's beyond everybody in his class. Like, he's years ahead of... And they were like, number one, they couldn't afford it.
It's
and,
expensive.
Nigerian ego. So it's like, my son doesn't want to do music. We're not doing music for my... And I used to think my dad hated me. I used to think my father hated my gift and was, annoyed that I had the gift, not realizing that he was trying to protect me, but he also had pride. And he was trying to keep himself to say to the teacher he couldn't afford,
those extra
classes, and it was his ego was bruised.
Facts.
So they protected us by denying us. You know what I mean? But that was a blessing in disguise, man, because I taught that today in class at the EWL class this morning when I said sometimes the rejection and the neglect and the negative comments and the things that are taken away from you are the things that drive you even more. So I don't know if I got given everything, I would be sitting here today with the experience that I have and telling you this story. I might be the kid that's just a talented young boy, you know what I mean, who never made it. But those things really push me to be great, man. And I'm so grateful for every lesson. You know, it drove me. The fact that I couldn't have piano lessons drove me to the piano every day.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Teach yourself.
Teach myself. And I had to learn every instrument by sight. So I would sit behind whoever, because I was playing the drum set, I would look at the uncle playing the piano and I'd watch him play the
keys he was going to.
And I was playing and watching. And so that's how I learned. And then when he would get off the piano after service, I would go to the piano and practice everything I saw him do.
So you never read music notes or anything?
Nah. I'll tell you a funny story. So in my music exam and in London, you know, I wanted to do my GCSE. So my music exam, you had to do a reading piece. So you had to read a piece of music. And play. So I had a Beethoven piece, and I couldn't read it because I didn't have the lessons, right? And my teacher's looking at me like, "You're gonna do this piece?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna." And I self-taught. I went home and I took my Casio piano and I listened to
the sound that came from those
and
notes.
And I learned to play the piece. Exam day came, and I'm talking about 15 years old. Exam day came. I sat in the class, put the piece of the music on, and proceeded to play. And play the piece perfectly. My teacher looked at me, she's like, "How did you do that?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "How did you play that piece without changing the page?" And that's how she realized.
Damn!
And that's how she found out
that I
wasn't reading the music.
You were playing by sound, by ear.
Yeah. And so everything I've done, everything record I've made to this very day has been by my ears and seeing beyond. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you can see sound if you close your eyes and look deep, right? And so I could see, like, you know, I could see the song. I could see the future of it. I could see it being a hit. I could see, you know, the artist performing it in stages. I could see it all before I made it. And so, you know, something I always teach is like we're visionaries, producers are, we're like wizards. You know what I mean? We see the future. We got like crystal balls where we can see the success of something and call it forward, you know? So that's been my gift, man, and I'm very grateful for it.
You mention every time, you know, the fact that it started in church and how it hasn't only just affected you as a producer and musician, but obviously as a human being as well. But where did you make the transition to making pop, like coming from the choir, coming from instrumentation to making pop music?
That's a deep and loaded question.
Yep.
So being a Nigerian, I mean, you know, I'm Nigerian to the bone. I know everything about Nigeria, and I speak Yoruba fluently, and which confuses a lot of people. Because it's like, this is my first time in Nigeria. You know what I mean? So they was like, how you speak Yoruba so much? My parents...
They speak it at home.
My parents was not afraid to let me know I was Nigerian. Regardless of where they raised us, you're Nigerian.
Facts.
Through and through. And you're a Christian.
Facts.
And we're going to raise you in church. So, you know, I remember being in church, and I had a relationship with God anyway, because that's what I said, double-edged sword. I was raised in church. It's the only place I could do music because my parents hated that idea of me doing music for multiple reasons. So I learned to have a relationship with God by default. Because that was the only place I could do music. So God meets me in this place, and I start to understand that Jesus' mission was to go to the people and not the church. Like if you read the Bible, he goes straight to the
wants to
people.
touch the people.
He didn't go to the Pharisees and sit in the church and be like, hey, you know, I'm Jesus, what's up? He went to the people, right? And I realized that I wanted my gift to go to the people, and I didn't want to be stuck in the church, just being a musician playing. And so I was confident that I could make music that was going to touch people, right? And I could still make a difference. Even if I was around that, I could still use my skill set, the same skill set I used in the church during worship and praise. And, you know, I would see people cry and have an emotion. It's the same effect today with the pop music I make, where I've seen people cry. I've been sent videos of people like crying to like This Is Why I Love You by Major, wedding after wedding, funeral after funeral, emotion after emotion.
You produced that one
Yes,
by
sir.
Major?
Yes, sir.
No way.
Wrote and produced that.
God damn it. I see that brother performing that
Yes, sir.
all around.
Now, a lot of those songs that I will mention that I've produced came from the same place that I met God in the first place, which is the worship room. Like a lot of those songs came from there. A lot of those songs, When Jesus Say Yes, from Janet Jackson's Made for Now, to Chris Brown and Chipmunk's Champion, to Ariana Grande's The Way.
You mentioned the record Chris Brown and Chipmunk Champion, and I instantly had Chipmunk because I have a personal connection to some people.
Yeah. So let me tell you what the funniest thing about that song, that song Champion, was exactly who I was, right? That song is basically a reflection of who I am. You know what I'm saying? Remember I said I wanted my music to affect the world?
Yeah.
That's a prime example. At the time that the song was created, I was in the biggest transition of my life. I was leaving the UK, transitioning to a city that I never been in before, had no friends, no relationship, nobody at all that I'd ever met. I was going to try and figure out a career in a foreign land because everybody in the UK had told me no. Like every door was shut. Every place I'd gone to, I'd basically reached my capacity. And I was about to either give up and become an everyday guy and go get a regular job, or I was going to go take this risk. And so I woke up one morning and God knocked on my door, was like, get out there, man. And I mean, he made everything so difficult for me at a time. And to everybody watching, just understand sometimes when you're going through hard times and difficult times, understand that's just God pointing you in that direction. Like he's closing the doors in on you so you can get a little bit more focus, right? Because sometimes you got too much going on, family, relationships, people in your ear, trying to please everybody, trying to keep everybody happy. And he just removed everybody from me. Like he was like, all of a sudden, I went talking to my parents, my relationship ended, everything started to get real still. People weren't looking the same, friendships weren't the same. And all of a sudden I had no reason to stay. Boom.
It was just time to go.
Just time to go. I packed my bags, 12 of them, flew to LA. I'll never forget the day I landed with tears in my eyes, like, what am I doing here? And I had nothing but a chance and opportunity. At the time, as I was getting ready to move out there, I met this young kid called Chipmunk, who, I'm going to just say,
the greatest rapper in my books.
Listen,
I said that on record. You can tell anybody in the world I said that.
I have my opinions. Everybody knows. I swear on that kid. That kid is...
let me, before you continue, I say if my life depended on 5 rappers to battle for my life worldwide, Chip's going first.
And Chip will win.
Facts.
Bar for bar, word for word. One of the killers I've ever... One of the greatest killers I've ever seen in rap. And like, you know, this whole thing and the music thing, and we'll get into Chip because Chip he knows what he's about, right? He's not good, bad, or ugly. Like I've seen I've seen the greatest of Chip, I've seen the worst of Chip. And he has a loyalty and a morals to his art that a lot of people don't have. Even when he's doing the battling and he's beefing, it's about the art. It's not about nothing else. Like if you ever check what he's saying, it's like, yo, bring your bars, bro. Like this is about bars.
Pen game.
It's about your pen game. Like this ain't about man them. This ain't man them. This is about the art. And that's what I loved about him. He was successful at a time that nobody was at that point. He was like, he was 16 years old with a #1 record, Oopsie Daisy, and he did it with so flawlessly, right? And so as he's transitioning, I remember I came at the end of that album. I did a song called Look For Me with Kele Riley. We did that record, and Chip was like, yo, can you, he was like my light and shining light. Like, he was like the hope. And he was like, can you do my next album? And I said, me? He's like, yeah. I said, why me? He said, you just got that sound, bro. And you've got that international, like, I feel like you can make songs that go across the globe. And I was like, I'm just staring at this kid. He don't know me from Adam. Mind you, when I was in Tottenham a year before we met, we'd seen each other in a KFC, and just his aura and his respect for me, he was like, what's up? Walk on, big bro.
Somebody that he didn't
know.
know.
He didn't even know. He's like, walk on, big bro. And walk past. I said, a year later, I walk in the studio, it's me and him. He's like, yo. I said, yeah, you remember me at the KFC? He's like, yeah, man. I was like, I got nothing but respect for you since then. And so we proceed, and we make, our first song we did together went #4 on the UK charts. That was Chip, though. That was nothing to do. All I did was produce the record. Chip told me. He was like, he's the one who showed me. He's like, bro, I'm going to show you how you get to the charts. My first ever real chart making record, which was called Look For Me with Kele Riley. And I said, bro, how you do that? He was like, I told you, I just know this music space. And so I proceeded to learn from this kid. I'm 10 years older than him. But I wasn't shy to learn from him because he was doing something that I wasn't doing.
Genius.
Right? So we get into the situation. I'm transitioning. I'm like, bro, I'm transitioning to LA. He was like, well, I'll come out in LA to work with you. So we go out there. We wrapping up the album. The album sounding really good because this was a hip-hop album.
Facts.
But it was also a pop album.
Yeah.
Because it was pop smashes on it. And me and this young kid called Eric Bellinger, we were both hungry.
Eric Bellinger.
And this is Eric Bellinger who's trying to make it.
As a baby.
Right. And this is me, Harmony Samuels, who was just figuring out what H Money was about, right? And so we're all in this room and we're creating. I remember my studio was no bigger than this. And we was in there creating, bro. And I wanted to make a song that reflected my fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't stop. You have to understand, in my head, I went from a city where the ceiling felt so low, and I'd reached it, and now I'm in this city that's 98 degrees around the clock, palm trees everywhere, and this man called Rodney Jerkins Darkchild is giving me an opportunity. Darkchild. You know what I'm saying? This man has tells me I'm the next one. Like, he told me. He was like, he called me Harms. He never called me Harmony. Till this very day, he will call me Harms. Harms. He's like, Harms, your beats cause harm. When we hear your records, it causes harm. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, now all of a sudden I got this opportunity, I'ma die
Trying to
get it. And we make this song called Champion. I remember Eric Bellinger saying, I was born a champion. I'll never forget that hook. And I just remember having an emotional moment because I knew this song was like all the songs we made, this one is singing differently.
Different.
That's not where that was kind of like, okay, we about to change the UK. Everything about to be a different scene. We got a hit. This is going #1. We good. Then God goes, I'm going to show you. He's like, God decided he want to show out. It couldn't get any better than that. Well, remember I said, it's almost like I feel like I could see the future. So this particular time where we've done Champion, we've done Champion. I'm watching the BET Awards, and I don't know if anybody remembers, like 2009, 10, Chris Brown does a Michael Jackson tribute.
Yes, where he breaks down crying.
And I'm like, this was the first time we'd seen Chris Brown on
in a
stage.
long time, since 2008.
The drama.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at TV in my apartment. I'm like, and this overwhelming feeling came upon me. Not like, wow, this is amazing. This overwhelming feeling, and I heard God say, he's your next clientele. Get ready for that. So I told to my partner, I was like, bro, I think we're gonna work with Chris next. And he was like, yeah, that would be crazy. And I was like, oh, you don't get it. Like, I feel like very soon
This is the guy.
we're gonna go work with this kid. So fast forward, maybe a week later, there was a song outside of Champion that I had done for out of respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, I'm in LA. Who am I to brag about
Yeah.
who I work with? I work with anybody, right? So they had this young 15-year-old kid, and Biggie's ex-manager or old manager, Mark Pitts,
Yeah.
was looking after the kid. So Mark Pitts comes to the studio.
Take your notepads,
Listen,
kids.
Mark
Pitts. Do the Google. That's all I say.
Big bro Mark Pitts, who's,
do the
you know,
Googles.
I got to give him honor and respect. But he came and took a record from me for this 14-year-old kid. And he's like, yo, can I get the record? It's like, of course. You mean, look, yeah, we ain't even going to charge you. Go ahead, do what you do, right? He did the record for the kid. They invite me to the video shoot after we've seen the BET thing.
Yeah.
So we go to the video shoot. Who's at the video shoot doing backflips? Chris Brown. And I'm looking at my business partner like, bro, I just said a week ago we're gonna work with this kid. Chris Brown's in the room right now. Doing backflips. And so he likes the song so much, he says, hey, yo, who the hell made this record? Damn. Like, he asks, like, just like that in a room full of people, and everybody goes, Harmony Samuels. You know, that boy walks up to me. This is when I knew he was special, but I knew all God was orchestrating. He walks up to me because I'm like, do I walk up to him? Like, do I say something to him? Like, I'm sweating. My hands are sweating. I'm like, what do I do? He walks up to me, sits next to me right here, and he says, you made that record? I was like, yeah. He's like, bro, we got to work. I was like, that's so crazy. I said, bro, you want to work with me? You ain't going to say nothing but 2 words, bro. And the rest was history. He was like, where you from? I said, London. And he was like, man, I love London. They won't let me in.
That was when the bad.
Like, you know what I'm saying? He was like, they ain't going to let me over there. And I was like, damn, that's crazy, man. I was like, but I encouraged him. I said, you good? You on your way back. God gonna bless you, bro.
He's got 3 nights at the O2 sold out 2023, and I'm gonna be out there. Just so you know.
That's my
We
bro.
let him back in.
So listen, he comes in, he says, let's work. It doesn't happen like overnight, but we're in the studio cleaning up Champion, and then my manager was like, yo, we should send this to Chris. And I look at him like, nah, Chris ain't gonna do this. You crazy? Like, he don't know Chip like that. But then I was like, this might help getting back in the UK, him collaborating
With the top dog.
youth. So we send it. And mind you, we just met him anyway, so it was fresh open. Tina Davis, who was managing him at the time, Big Sis was like, yo, we love you, Harms. We're going to connect and get you in the studio with him. So when we sent Champion, bro,
He came back with that emotion.
immediately. No, he wasn't like, bro, it was like you have to understand, I already knew this was going to be a great song, but she came back immediately and was like, Chris loves it and wants to do the record. He has one thing, though. And I was like, what? Don't tell me take Chip off. Because I was like, that's
the owner of the record.
I can't tell
do
Chip. He says, I got to do my own verse. I need to rap my own verse. And that was the only record he spoke on.
Some people.
Like, go listen to his verse. Is that the real definition of me now? Like, listen, that's the only time he spoke on it.
Right
like, he had never spoken on any other record.
That's it.
He never addressed it.
So that was like a message to
So
the
it was a
fans
message to the world
that
you ain't stopping
You ain't
me.
gonna stop me, and you will not paint me with this brush just by one mistake.
He just posted it the other day, and that. So him and Chip came together. And we made. Let me tell you something, bro. The thing that made me laugh about is I remember recording him. So me and who's the other guy that was with him? I can't remember, but it was me in the studio cutting him, and the voice of a superstar is distinct.
It's different, isn't it?
Bro, I said, oh my, like I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh shit. Because it was a big song, but this nigga made it. Like it was like, I was looking at the speaker like, is this what this feels like? Like Chris took it. And you gonna say, Eric's probably one of the best vocalists I know.
Absolutely.
That's a hard task.
He still took some flowers this year.
Bro, it's a hard
I think
task.
Usher put him on some flowers this year.
You cannot touch my boy.
Eric Bellinger is crazy.
Monster. But that vocal came through on that Champion, especially because he meant it from a place.
We felt it.
And you know what I mean? It came from a place of pain.
That's why. Listen, I'm a big Chris Brown fan. Everybody knows that. And I actually had a viral moment this year.
Wow.
Where I spoke about Chris's performance at Afro Nation in Portugal.
Yeah.
Where it was about those vocals as well. Yeah. Where we heard those vocals for 50 minutes on stage with nothing else. Yeah, bro. And my God, he laid it on. Yeah, bro. And just the same emotions that came from that Chipmunk record. Yeah. From the bars of Chip to the hook of Chris. Yeah. That record gets the same feel. You mentioned the title, and I had goosebumps. Bro, you didn't have to sing the record.
Bro, that was the record that changed my life. I'm not even going to... Like, I had produced for almost 15 years without seeing a single dime. Right? Without seeing any money that I could even take home and say, this was a you know...
music money.
Some money from music. You know what I mean? This is salary of any... Nah. This record was the first time I'd seen, like, oh, this is life-changing. It was life-changing, bro. I mean, every FIFA game, every PlayStation game, it was just football, basketball. It was on every TV show. I was just like, yo. And the beautiful thing was it came so organically. The label didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chip was such a... entrepreneur. Him and Bath would like, they just moved on their own pace. They didn't like, the label never had control of what they did. So when I sent the record over there with Chris Brown, that's the first time they heard it. Like, wait, what?
We got Chris Brown.
Then it was like, well, how are we gonna pay for this? Like, how is this gonna happen? Chris didn't even get paid for it. Not because he couldn't.
Because he just liked it.
He loved the record. He did it for the love. I mean, they paid for that video.
Absolutely.
And they paid for him to get there, whatever.
Scene and all that.
Listen, that was all Chris. Colin Tilley, that was his boy. Like, everything was like with Chris, but it was a bridge. Remember I told you I was created to be, I'll bridge something. I did something that I needed to see for myself. Like, I always wondered why UK rappers were never accepted by American culture and why that collaboration never happened. It never did outside of Estelle and American Boy. And we just know Ye just different anyway. Yeah. And, you know, I could count on one hand Marsha Ambrose. But there was no one really like making huge collaborations like that. Yeah. That the world, and so when me and Chip and Chris did that, I saw the earth shift. I saw a culture shift. I saw a lot of Americans look at us differently because we did Kerry Hilson on that album, Trey Songz on that album, Popcorn on that album. You know what I'm saying? We did a lot of different things but that one collaboration changed the conversation. And it also encouraged rappers in the UK that they could do something different.
Movado you had on that album.
Movado. Right? And...
changed our lives, brother.
Listen... Transition was a transition for me,
changed our lives.
Transition for him, transition for the UK, because a lot of the UK didn't understand it at first.
Absolutely.
It came later.
And he hit in the summer.
Listen, Wiley was like, yo, I didn't get this at first, but Jesus. You know what I mean? And then you saw the Tiny Tempers, and you saw the Tinchies, and everybody else started doing these collaborations.
Pop sound.
And I was like, there we go. That's it. Now you're going international. Yeah, you're breaking out. Now you're going abroad, and you're making you're not just going abroad and getting a feature. You're making global records. And I saw that transition. We were being taken seriously. It was the beginning. And Chip gets a respect for this. Chip never left no one. So when I moved to LA, Chip got so used to flying LA. He used to hate it at first. He got so used to flying LA that I would call him, say, play him a record over the phone, and he'd be on a plane the next day and cut the record. That's how Chip was. But hear the joke. He brought Wretch.
He brought Skepta. He brought all of the man them from the hood. And was like, yeah, this is where we're at. And so to see Skeppy moving the way he's moving, seeing Rich move the way he's moving, I was just proud because he didn't have to bring him along. But he did. It was his man them. You know, Krypton, Conan, all of them. Like, Chip was a real, like,
No,
you know what I mean? Like, he was a supporter of them all.
Everybody that knows me know I don't play with Chip.
Yeah, he was a supporter
I
of
just
them
think
all.
for me that, you know, I've been on apologetically African Afrobeats from day one.
And so we should.
But when it came to UK grime music, where your Wileys and your Skeptas and Lethal Bizzles and, you know, and these people popped up and Kano's and this incredible Gets.
Yeah.
Chip for me is just a special cloth. I can't talk about him enough. And every time I listen to Chip, whether it's a battle record or a simple record or whatever, I always want everybody to listen
To the bars.
with the way I'm listening to
The
it.
bars.
Like, no, listen to that. Listen. So sometimes
Yeah.
we can be too much. You know, if you're a Chip fan or a Chris Brown
It
fan,
can be a lot. It can
you'll
be a
be
lot.
too much
Yeah,
when
it
you're
can
trying
be a
to
lot.
tell people to jump
Yeah.
on it. I'm going to ask you a question because
Shoot.
I know we got to go. This is like the part one of my interview with Harmony Samuels.
Yeah,
We're gonna do part two.
we got a lot to do, man.
Exactly. Maybe
There's a
in
lot to cover.
LA or maybe in London.
Yeah, whichever way. I'm down. Let's do it.
But this question is going to be this. You saw the beginnings of Tiwa Savage.
Ooh,
You produced the door-shattering hit record that changed her life.
Kele Kele.
And you've been in and around, you know, that growth of Afrobeats since that moment.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about those simple beginnings that you probably didn't understand at the time
Good point.
and how big it's become now with Burner doing stadiums in Europe and the Caribbean and all of that stuff?
Let me tell you something. Like I said, being Nigerian in the 80s and 90s was hard, man. Like, we didn't, especially in Europe, in London, we hid that. You know what I mean? Like, you went to school and you hid you were Nigerian. But I was always like, one day I want to see Nigeria in the forefront. Like, I wanted to see all that corny stuff that they clowned us about from the Jamos and the Caribbeans and the Brits and the whites and like, they were all going to eat their words. That was a big part of my musical journey. Because, you know, being a drummer, I used to do weddings and I used to play Fuji and I played for Sonny Okosun, I played for Adesope. Like, I played for them in the UK. Like, I played for them properly. Like, it wasn't no joke. Like, I was playing, when they came to our church or when they had parties,
You
I
were
was
the band member.
Yeah, I was one of the band members. No bullcrap. So, it was a part of my life. You know what I mean? So I wanted to see those vibes in the space. So I always knew that. The one thing about me, I'm a patient dude. Like, I'll wait till the window opens. But when that window opens, I'm shattering it. And those windows have opened to me a couple times. Champion was one of them, right? Well, here the funny thing with Tiwa. I moved to LA. Told you I don't know anyone. And so someone's like, oh, you're Nigerian, right? I was like, yeah, and this young man was like, well, you need to meet Tiwa because she's Nigerian and y'all should get on. She's from London. You never met her before? And I was like, I lived in London 28 years. No, I ain't never met no girl from Tiwa. Didn't know she had been on The Voice. Didn't know she had tried to make it as an artist. Didn't know none of this. I just thought she was a songwriter. So we meet. We instantly connected. It's my family, just based on being Nigerian. You know what I mean? I was like, we're here in this strange land. I got you, whatever you need. So we wrote. She was hustling. I was hustling. She was trying to be an artist. She would take meetings and, you know, but songwriting, that pen was prolific.
It's crazy.
She was a bad chick with that. So we did songs for Fantasia. We did songs for Desi Child. We did songs for everybody. Like, anybody I was working on, we wrote songs for. She worked on a lot of people, bro. Like, her credits before she even came back to Nigeria was loaded. So I'm just letting you know that she wasn't no punk. right?
Talk that talk.
She wasn't no punk. That girl had credits.
Facts.
Right? And she had been around all of it, from Brandy, all of them. Like, this whole thing was like, oh, somebody's son. She'd been around Brandy. She'd been done that. So when I came around, Champion just popped off. We working on stuff. Chris Brown came out with the Fame album.
Yep.
So we're in the middle of like transitioning as well. She's transitioning. 2010, she calls me. She's like, bro, I'm going back to Nigeria. I said, excuse me? Now, you have to remember, being in the UK, and one thing I love about London, no matter what,
Our Africanness is
we will
present.
always be African.
Yeah, present.
So when
Yeah.
African Queen had come out,
Yep.
P Square and all
Yep.
that was moving around, I had already started transitioning into what Afrobeat was going to be. Like, I was already playing around with, sounds
Yep.
and using the drums
Yep.
and the synths and the R&B chords and putting them into Afrobeat grooves.
Yep.
So I already knew where I was going with it. It didn't really, I knew where it was going. I always knew, because the fact that Two-Face had impacted so hard,
Yeah.
we were all excited.
It was gonna come.
It was coming.
Yeah.
It was. You weren't stopping that. That song, it was for me
It was a
the
pop
biggest
smash.
shifter.
Absolutely.
The biggest
African
shift I've
Queen
ever seen.
took us to the Caribbean and United States of America. Absolutely.
Right. So T was like, I'm going to Nigeria. I'm not gonna lie. I said, for what? There's no industry. How you gonna pay your bills? You know what I'm saying? We don't have radio. You know what I mean? We're like in
He's
the UK,
paying, yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a tough ride. She was like, I need to go. They're not giving me an opportunity here. There's too many people. It's saturated. Too many options. At least there, I have an option to try, right? With no one, there's nothing that's gonna stop me, right? It's pretty much fit. It's like I got nothing but, you know what I mean? Like, so I said, okay. So what do you need from me? She said, I just want you to make Afro, like the way we made Afro beats, but use all those sounds that you did for Beyonce, use those sounds that you would use for Brandy and all of them, all those synth sounds for the pop music, use them, but use them in an African way. First song I made, Kele Kele. It wasn't like, oh, we made a bunch of songs. That's all. Those drums were the same drums I used for Chris Brown. Same drums. I remember switching over. Like, I remember I'm going to just use these drums because I just use them for Chris and making an African groove. So he's like, boom, ga, boom, ga, ga, eh, boom, ga, boom, ga, ga.
Only.
So all I was doing was replaying what I learned in the church, replaying what I learned playing with Fuji, playing with Sonia Kosso, playing with Adesope, and using those vibes in the music. It just sounded different because I'm now using
Absolutely.
David Guetta synths, and I'm using 808s instead of a real life bass, and it just bumped different. And then T was, she's writing for these people, so she knows how to use auto-tune. She knows how to use
tell
their
stories.
melodies. She knows how to tell their stories.
Emotions.
She knows how to listen. She captivated everything she learned from the West Coast, from the West side of the world, and put it in and packaged it. And I feel like the difference for her was the song was a smash, period. But when she was able to package it and show herself to her own people, she became a beacon of light. That's what it was. It was like, oh, so we can do it like this. Like me. All the British young producers always thank me. Bro, when you did Champion, that made me believe I could do anything. Well, let's look at who came after Tiwa. Let's look at all the females.
There's no way. I tell people, like, listen, man.
I'm sure there were other people, but
Listen,
there was
bro,
something significant
the inspiration,
about. There you go.
She was like, to us, okay, I'm a UK person, so I'm always biased in saying Tiwa Savage's impact was not only to say she was a woman amongst men doing the thing.
Yes, sir.
But she also was raising a flag that some of us couldn't, where she felt that she can do better at home.
Yeah.
And she picked up her bags and came home.
came
a lot of us
home.
dreamt about that,
Listen,
but
bro.
didn't have the kahunas to do it.
I didn't.
I didn't.
She came to me for the music, and I was like, you crazy.
I DM'd her on Twitter because I wanted to interview her.
Yeah.
At the time when she was going back on, I said, listen, Tiwa Savage, I want to interview. She was like, I'm at the airport now. I'm going to Nigeria. I'm thinking, she crazy. Like,
Bro.
you just left the X Factor here. You've gone to LA. We see you writing, doing all this
Bro,
thing. You're
left.
going to Nigeria.
To start again.
Queen, you tripping.
Listen.
But guess what? Who tripping now?
Not only did she trip to a win, all the people that denied her in Los Angeles and in the music business are fighting for her right now.
Red carpets for her now.
Yeah. And it was funny because she came to see me. She did a world tour. She came to LA. She sold out the Roxy.
She did like 22 stops in the United States of
Bro,
America.
sold out though.
Google that.
Sold out.
Don't talk about Europe.
Sold out.
She had the Brixton Academy
Sold out.
rocking.
And people knew every word.
Bro.
So for me, and every time she would do, and I respect her, love to my sister because she told everybody the story. She was like, my first hit came from this dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone's like, you made
And
this?
yeah, you made another one. You
Yeah.
made another one.
Love me, love me, love me.
Love me. Oh, yeah.
We had to back that up. That's what I do. I always make sure I support the first one. If I give you a hit, I'm gonna support that one because I need to make sure people know it wasn't a fluke. You know what I mean? Rotimi's Love Rhythm, same thing. You know what I mean?
Rotimi's Love Rhythm.
When we did that,
Hey, money. And then you came with it, boom.
Then we came with In My Bed.
Sleeping
Listen,
in my bed.
you know the first person
In my bed. It was me.
It was you. The first listen.
He sent me the record first.
Listen.
When you sent it to me, Rotimi sent it to me as well and be like, yo, H Money sent the record. I said, it's a smash.
Listen, I had to.
I remember when you sent it to
I
me.
woke up and I said, "Big bro, I need you to spin this before
We
the
went
world
crazy.
hits." The world, and you said you hit me. You said, "Oh my!" I remember you just said,
I
"Bro,
said,
what did you do?"
Like what you took. I just want to say, listen, man. Like I said, this is the first of many conversations we're gonna have.
Yeah, man.
But I want to say this to end it on this. Congratulations on the success so far. Congratulations on representing this hard.
Yeah,
Congratulations on holding your spirituality this long.
yeah, man.
And congratulations for being a gentleman from day one till now
Yes, sir.
and forever.
Amen.
All the things that I congratulated you on are some of the most difficult things for people to achieve.
Yes, sir.
And to keep taking forward. Your success should have come into this room before you walked in. If it was some people.
Yeah.
That success, they would have come here and cleared everybody out. That H Money is coming in, y'all get out.
Nah, man.
But you come differently.
Yeah.
You're impacting the crowd, you're impacting the young ones, you're impacting us, you show so much humility about your genius that it is important to keep celebrating you.
Yeah, man. I
So
appreciate that, man.
thank you, my brother, and congrats to everything. We will have this conversation in part
Yes,
2.
sir.
But until then, it is the super producer, hit making, multi-million selling, Nigerian representing,
Yes, sir.
LA based,
Yeah.
UK raised, H Money.
What's up, boy? I appreciate you, big bro. Thank you, my bro.
Thank you,
Love,
brother.
man.
As
Thank you.
always, man. As always.
The Afrobeats Podcast.
Right.